This was during the cruise? Or?
This is during the cruise. You have duck twice a week. And you got to the point where you hated to see the duck come out.
Where'd the duck come from?
They brought it on board before we left.
Oh, okay. So it was part of
the provisions that we had and everything.
Part of the provisions. Right?
Did you eat anything fresh that was caught off the...
No.
I never did.
Didn't have any fresh food or apples or fruit or anything. Everything was canned.
As I recall, when we got to the first ice area where they had the Eskimos, do you remember that? And this guy comes out in this boat to us. Do you remember? In that little boat, and he's coming along. Here he is, got a brand new Johnson outboard on the back of this Eskimo boat. I said, "No, what is this? I thought we were primitive country." He's got a Zippo cigarette lighter or something. And they asked him if there's anything you want. He said, "Yeah, so you got oranges and apples and fruits, you know."
He spoke English?
Yeah.
Now, when did that occur? Was that before
That
it got
was later
summer?
on. That was later on.
Oh,
Yeah.
Was that later on?
Anyway, after we left Cape Perry, then we proceeded back to where the open water ended. That's when we got into the islands, the various islands. We then proceeded to put up stands you could see, you know, for a mile. And that was so that we could run the small boats and use a pedometer and sound the waters across the channel.
Where'd you put the stands? That was in the ice?
No, it was on islands that were there. They give a location.
Like towers, small towers.
I see.
Towers, you know, there's about 10 feet high. And they go put it on an island. Well, as it happened, they were running small boats every day. We were starting at 6 o'clock. We had 2 crews. And I know I was myself, low back, and there was a seaman that was out of Newport Beach in California that knew how to use the sextant. And then the 4 hydrographers knew how to use the sextant. So what they wanted to do was run 2 crews. And the one would start at 6 o'clock in the morning, and they'd run till about 2, and the other would start about 2 and run till about 8 or 9 at night.
They were long days.
They were long days, you know, for us at the time.
Well,
the
the sun never set.
The engineers, they just started down their hole out of the way. Except the one that had to go on the boat. They had one that had to go on the boat.
We had to provide that.
Yeah. But you go back and forth the channel, you know, and they kept plotting the position. Well, what they were doing is taking all these charts and is recording all of the bearings and everything that they had. And then they come back, they had a spot on the ship, you know, where they could plot all of these things. Well, the one hydrographer on the ship, and, you know, he couldn't keep up and with the others going out. And I know they went to the captain and asked him if they could use one hydrographer and use the other 3 of us, rotate the other 3 of us, you know, around so that we wouldn't run as long hours. So then we was starting to run about 7 in the morning till about 7 at night. You know, doing these soundings. So we was doing all the soundings.
This was all along the course of the...
All through the channels going through. Really? This is part of the cruise that we were doing, you know, running the channels.
Yeah.
And we got the soundings and everything, and we kept going deeper and deeper into it. And I know the ship, we were back there, I know we was in Simpson Straits. I remember that. We ran aground. You know, and we had a scanner that it was like a sonar to get the depth of the water. It wasn't one that went down, it scanned forward. And it was at about a 45-degree angle from the bottom of the ship. So when you went forward, you know, it was always further than what the ship was in the water. And they always had somebody that would sit there and monitor the pedometer, and if it changed, they were to yell right then, tell the OD it's changed. And they were right there with the helmsman and everything. And they were doing that, and that's how we kept going through the water, but they kept going slow. You know, they only went about 2 or 3 knots when they did it. And they were following the ship. And we found the water to be about 15 feet deep, going through most of those channels and everything.
Really? So was that one reason the Storis was selected in the first place, because it had a shallow draft?
Shallow draft, yeah. The same way with the BRAMBLE and SPAR. See, they don't have a deep draft either.
Yeah.
And I know we got through Simpson Strait, and that's when we hit the village.
Mm-hmm.
And they had to have some kind of morale, so they let people go ashore.
Uh-huh.
And
That's where the Eskimo came out with the motorboat,
Yeah.
Johnson.
everything like
Yes.
that, yeah.
So that would have been probably in August at some point.
Yeah, probably in August.
Yeah.
Yeah. We was close to the magnetic North Pole at that time too,
Uh-huh.
because our magnetic compass is going every which way.
Huh.
was
Was it pretty difficult to navigate with the that kind of problem going on?
We didn't use a magnetic compass, you know. That's used in
okay.
an emergency.
Okay.
They use gyroscopes.
They used a gyroscope, so we knew where true north was. You know, we knew where we were at. You know, charts and everything.
Huh.
But we let people go ashore. And the only story I remember was we were ashore. There's about 5 or 6 of us. There's this little Eskimo kid. One of the guys took and gave him a candy bar. When they gave him the candy bar, he smiled. Well, nobody got a picture of it. They wanted a picture, so the guy that gave him the candy bar went over there and grabbed the candy bar and pulled it away from him. Y'all ready? And then he gave him back the candy bar, and the kid smiled again. So one of the guys said he didn't get a picture, so he goes over to the Eskimo kids again and grabs the candy bar and pulls it away again. And he starts to frown. He was just frowning, you know, when he didn't have it. So he gave it to him again. The other guy got the picture of it. And that Eskimo kid, you know, he looked at that. He never thought he was ever going to get that candy bar.
I don't think he knew what it was. Had
No.
a rubber band tied to it. Gee whiz.
And the other, go ahead.
But after that, you know, it's basically just walking around the island or something like that, you know. And
As I recall, when we went in also, there was like a 3-master or something that was out there in the ice, and they said it had gotten frozen in the ice. I don't know what it was doing up there, and they tried to free it.
What was
And
that?
they tried to burn the ice around it and to set the ship on fire. Y'all don't remember that?
I
What
don't
was
remember
that?
that.
What vessel was that?
I don't know what it was. I know that I saw this.
I remember them telling us that Farley had ship at Sauk and it had a liquor, of course, as part of his contents. Of course, anxious about seeing how we get some of that stuff. That's all I remember. Yeah.
Was it? You think it was a supply vessel or
No,
exploration?
it was like some merchant vessel that had gotten up in there, was trying to supply.
wouldn't-
Well, they had to get
years
supplies.
before,
They had
years
people that
before.
got up there to supply.
Oh, I see.
What they didn't have is a vessel that completely circumnavigated, nor had charted the waters.
Yeah.
In addition to this, as I recall, we had great tidal changes too.
Yes.
And the tourists got beached there for a while, one time.
Really?
Well, was there much of a tidal effect there? Tide?
It did us, you know, if you was tied up to a dock or something like that, you'd see the change.
Yeah.
But we didn't.
But didn't we get grounded one time there? when
We
were
ran
in this
aground.
place? We ran aground? Oh.
Yeah.
Was that because?
And they had to wait for the tide to rise to get it off.
No, I think we backed off. I forget.
Well,
Yeah.
I have the poorest memory in this group.
It's another
I'm
part of
definitely the
Canada,
weakest.
the Bay of
That was the only
Fundy.
time I wasn't on the hill when it ran aground.
It's in another part of Canada known as the Bay of Fundy.
Yeah.
Has the highest tides in the world,
Yeah.
72-foot range.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
That's a different cup of
Yeah.
tea, yeah.
If I can get off just
Yeah.
a little bit, isn't this global warming going to affect those high tidal
Yeah.
areas worse than it will the south?
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah.